Akilah Lacey in The Intercept about Mike Bloomberg. Yeah, so it's really, really sad to see Michael Bloomberg. I mean, it's also actually, I shouldn't say sad, but it's a sad performance, but really hilarious to see someone as evil as Michael Bloomberg just fall flat on his face there. Yeah, he most likely will not be in the race for too much longer. A lot of pressure from the centrists as they continue their coalescing effort, but it really is insane that just, like, I don't know, a few weeks ago, like, looking at people like Simone Sanders on Twitter tweeting out, it's like, oh, buddy, you picked the wrong candidate. And now, like, it's just so quick. It's amazing how the dynamics change. It's the complete opposite now. And it's really interesting to see as the Biden campaign looking very, very happy, at least with this. 21% reporting in Texas, getting reports 28.8 to 22.3 Bernie up. That is very interesting. There's so many different sources here coming in at really all different times, and it's really very confusing. So, yeah, coming up, I am actually going to give another James a call. We're going to get James Weld on the air with us. But, all right, until then, we will stick with, right now, we're going to stick with The Intercept. Intercept live coverage from The Intercept and Democracy Now! Will be taking us through until then. All right, welcome, James, to the show. James Stanley with us today. James Stanley, thank you so much for joining us. What do you think of the results so far tonight? Are you surprised? What's going through your head right now?
Well, so far the results for tonight seem pretty good for Biden. So far he's won 3 of the so far he's actually won 3 of the states. With 38% reporting in Tennessee, I'm actually a little bit shocked for tonight because I don't know if you noticed, but Bloomberg is at 20% right now in Tennessee. I don't know if you saw that yet, Spencer, but it was just I was a little shocked actually because Bloomberg, I would have imagined, would have done better in a more affluent state like Virginia, for example.
Yeah, that was surprising. I think he put a lot of money into the Tennessee and Oklahoma states. I heard a lot about him in Oklahoma as well.
Yeah, Oklahoma, right. It's only 8% reporting, but Bloomberg is at 18%. But I think we also got to watch in Massachusetts with Warren and how she does in her own state. With only 6% reporting, Biden has taken the lead in that state. So it seems like for now, especially looking at Texas, that's going to be interesting to be watching because of the fact of a lot of the problems that they were having today with the voting. But I also think that it's interesting to see that New York Times is actually predicting it to be tilt for Biden, which is a little bit interesting because earlier today they had it as a lean most likely for Sanders because Texas does have a large
could you go into a little bit more about some of the issues that you've heard about so far? Because like we talked about at the top of the show, but I wasn't able to find too much specifics. What have you heard about some of the issues that they're facing in Texas right now?
I'm hearing about a lot of long wait lines at many of the polling sites, and I'm also hearing about that some people had gone and had to say, went to vote, and they weren't on the voter roll. Not a lot of people were saying that. A lot of people were just saying they were on the voter roll in a certain precinct where they thought they were, and then they went to another precinct and they were. So it was like a lot of misorganization, it seems like, on their part. But overall, I mean, Texas didn't really have that many problems. I just think it's a little bit shocking that the New York Times is predicting a tilt for Biden. Depends really on how the Hispanics come out and vote, if they vote in mass numbers for Sanders or if they are split even for Biden and Sanders, which would be a little bit shocked about for tonight. But reasoning for that is because historically it seems like Sanders has done rather well in the Hispanic community and Biden has done rather well in the Black community, which is one of the reasons why he won North Carolina. Biden, I'm talking about right now, because 1/3 of the voting population in North Carolina today was actually African Americans. African Americans have had a pretty positive opinion on Joe Biden. It seems for a good amount of time now in this race. For a short period of time, it kind of got watered down by Sanders, but it really just kind of stayed the same after that. Because I mean, tonight North Carolina was supposed to be more of a tilt, but the second the polls closed in North Carolina, it was already called for Biden. So they definitely keep an eye
that was
out,
really kind of telling of the way the night may play out. So,
yeah.
Yeah, and how do you see Texas continuing to play out? Because that's looking very, very tight at the moment. Because actually, no, so 24.5% in. Bernie Sanders is up, but Minnesota with Minnesota's not worth looking at this point. Tennessee, Biden pulling away a little bit more right now, with 23.1%. He's up 29.8 to 23.9. But yeah, none of those races yet have been called. Yeah, do you think? I think probably the two most interesting races right now are Bernie Sanders. For Bernie Sanders, really three are Massachusetts, Maine, and Texas.
Yeah, I'd probably actually argue that for Biden as well, because especially with Maine, Maine is going to be interesting to watch in the sense that Maine has a good amount of progressives, and they also have a good amount of moderate voters. So we got to see really how Bloomberg does as well in the state, because it really depends, again, on how Bloomberg does in the state, if he's going to water down support from Biden. But actually, we're seeing first numbers coming in for now for Arkansas and Minnesota. Minnesota is too small, but Arkansas is 4% in now. Biden with a slight lead. I mean, Biden's predicted to win that state anyway. Yeah. But Maine is going to be an interesting one to watch. It's not far from Elizabeth Warren either. So see how she performs there. She's not going to win the state necessarily, but I think it's good to see how she exactly performs in a state like Maine. Especially since a lot of voting bloc are actually typically people who would live in Maine, the white upper middle class voters who, typically are, moderate tilt left, which is the type of people who are really supporting Warren. She does have a good amount of young people supporting her, the typical Bernie Sanders type people as well, supporting her just because she's a female and they like the idea of having her as a female president, as to what they have said, at least from multiple videos, of why they supported Warren over Sanders. But a good amount of Warren's support is actually shockingly amongst the moderate tilt left voters who are typically older, 55 plus, and that's the type of people who really vote in Maine. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how she does there as well. But Colorado's also coming in now a little bit. Initial results are having Bernie pretty well high above Biden. That should be an easy state for Sanders to win anyway. Colorado shouldn't really even be a question. But overall, it seems like Tennessee got called for Biden, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, Tennessee has gotten?
Mm-hmm.
According to what?
They just got called by New York Times. They called it for Biden because 47's in, and he's up by 9% right now over Sanders.
Okay. So, all right, yeah. So Tennessee. All right. So in the Biden column right now, Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia, Oklahoma, and North Carolina, and it looks like Vermont and Colorado are up for Bernie Sanders. So, yeah, I mean, so far, what looks like we have seen, no real big surprises have been called yet for Bernie Sanders. Like, nothing major has gone against Bernie Sanders, but
I
like,
am a
the
little bit shocked
preliminary
that
results are not looking so good.
yeah, I am a little bit shocked that Biden's doing pretty well tonight, to be honest, because I would have imagined with many of these states that Biden would have not done too well, and especially like I'm a little bit shocked about Virginia, to be quite honest. I thought that Bernie would have done a little bit better than he did tonight, because he did campaign quite a lot in Virginia.
I feel like it's a suburban. Like the wealthy suburbanites, and more moderates, really, that overwhelm that state. And I think what really did the trick is
same in North Carolina.
The people that Bernie Sanders was really trying to make inroads with was these moderates, and Biden winning South Carolina, and then all the moderates coalescing around him was really, I think, a tough blow to Bernie Sanders' momentum. And it was successful. It really was successful. It was effective.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Tonight's proving that. And it's I don't know. It's going to be tough to see. I think a lot of people are going to debate how much these played yet. These endorsements from Klobuchar and Buttigieg played yet. But I think the next thing that has to happen, if Elizabeth Warren's, again, I said this earlier, but if Elizabeth Warren is serious about maintaining her kind of what little progressive cred that she has left in the minds of any Bernie Sanders supporters, I think tomorrow she's like out there doing a rally with Bernie Sanders, because staying at this point, like if you stand, especially past Super Tuesday when it's clear that Bernie needs your votes to compete, I think it's like it's showing that Bernie is it's showing that Elizabeth Warren is in this race to stop Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, but I think Warren's going to stay in a little bit longer. The reason why I say that is because Warren has the money to stay in, and I think the fact that I really kind of see with Warren's campaign here is, when comparing it to Klobuchar and Buttigieg dropping out and endorsing Biden, it definitely just seemed like it did help quite a lot, because Biden is up right now in a lot of states that I would have really, honestly, never really thought that it would have a good shot of really even going for Biden, like talking about Massachusetts right now and Maine over here. But overall, I am a little bit shocked with some of tonight's results. I think that the moderates definitely dropping out, two of them, definitely really did help, actually. I thought I was a little bit shocked. I thought that it really wasn't going to help, but it seems like that it did help a little bit. And then when we look at how Warren would really affect, I think Warren definitely Bernie and Biden, though. I don't think it's going to be 100% good for Sanders. I hope you realize that, because some of Warren's supporters will go on and support someone like.
Oh yes, this is James Weld. James Weld just joining us. Can you, James Stanley? Can you hear James Weld? All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So James Weld with us now. James Stanley was talking about. Just James, can you continue with what you were saying before?
Oh yeah. I was just saying about how I think Buttigieg dropping out and Klobuchar dropping out, it seems like it actually did help Biden quite a lot, and also he's fending off Bloomberg quite well in states that Bloomberg really had mass ads in. I mean, look at North Carolina, for example. North Carolina was one of the states that Bloomberg actually spent some of the most money in. He spent a crap ton of money there, because North Carolina is shockingly, it isn't a toss-up, but it is shockingly a state that could really be, well, I don't know how to describe it well. Bloomberg definitely could have won North Carolina if he got better with the African American community, because what helped Biden really propel to a win in this state was the fact that he had 1/3 of the support of the African American community. I think that that's something that Bloomberg really kind of missed out on.
Yeah, I think he originally had the support of the African American community because he seemed to be the most electable. That's what he seemed like he had a lot of power. He seemed like the money was very impressive, I think, to a lot of Democrats. But I think especially with a lot of what Elizabeth Warren's been doing, has been much more helpful to him, especially with the performance of the debate. So yeah, let's take a look at what. Let's see what the results are thus far. Still no changes. Interestingly enough, Tennessee has not been called over on Politico because I'm following Politico because I think they're a little bit ahead. But they haven't called Politico. Politico has not called Tennessee yet, but I'm sure they will soon.